Welcome back to The Real Deal on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I am your host, Kim Hollingshead. I'm a real estate attorney and a very proud American, as you guys can tell as of late. I'm telling you, 2026 is just the love letter to the United States. I love it. I've been cracking up watching all these videos of the Europeans going back to Europe and just being like, I can't even sleep at night because I don't have air conditioning. And I feel so bad for them. And I get it, honey. Go get you some air conditioning. That's terrible. So we are going back to values and what makes America, America, land of the free, home of the brave. And one of our foundational freedoms here is a freedom to own property. And that the government, a huge part of the government's job is to protect our property and to protect our right to own it. I think that is so cool because it is just not the case in most of the world, not even most of the Western world, that we don't even have a concept of what property ownership is like in other parts of the world. And maybe one of these days we'll do a survey of it here on the radio show. So what I want to go ahead and share with you though is I want to bring it down. Look, when we talk about homeownership in this country, why is it so important? Well, I'm going to tell you about somebody that I saw on social media. And I think this touched my heart so much, okay? So imagine this. Single mother in Detroit. She buys her first home through a program that helps Black families specifically become homeowners. What changed? What changed for her from being a renter to a homeowner? Is it really that big of a deal? Yes. Her daughter went to a school for gifted children. And at that time, she had to drive 45 minutes each way to get her child to and from school. And, obviously that's incredibly isolating for a child. And I can tell you that she shared on social media that once they bought their house and they lived close enough for her child to go to school, that she was able to start having sleepovers and birthday parties in her own home, in a home that her mama owns. And, just think about that. Think about that safety, that security, that stability that was all of a sudden in one single day granted to her child in a way that she'd never had before. I think that is so beautiful. So, really just stay with me here because what I want you guys to know is that there's a reason why Blacks in this country do not own homes at the same rate as white people. And it goes very, very far back in our history. And we're not going to do this as a victim mentality television show because I don't believe in that. But I want you to have some, compassion for people, some empathy for people to understand and not be so judgmental. But, let's talk about it because after, there's been a lot of heartbreak for Black Americans in terms of property ownership. And it really began, obviously, when they were themselves property. Absolutely shameful part of our history that we ever allowed any slavery to go on here on this soil. But we did. And after the Civil War, there was this promise that was made to all of the slaves. They were going to get 40 acres and a mule. That promise was made to them, and then it was pulled back. All of the land that had been handed over to them was suddenly returned to their former enslavers. So when you strip away a family's entire foundation, that kind of, for the stripping away is going to echo that in that family for generations to come. Because the fact is that they went from being slaves to being landowners to being what? Tenants? Something in between. So, you absolutely have to allow people to build on their own land so that they can give to their children what white families had, right? Well, then fast forward to the 1930s. Black families were allowed to own property by this time. However, the government actually mapped out in cities where it was safe for mortgage lending to occur, which was kind of a newer thing in the United States at the time. Of course, green was good, red was bad. And the red lines went around Black neighborhoods, immigrant neighborhoods, Chinese neighborhoods. Because that's, and that's where the word redlining comes from, you guys. It's been completely illegal for 50 years. We have fair housing laws in this country. But however, even since the redlining of the 1930s, those neighborhoods that were originally redlined still to this day, almost 100 years later, still tend to have lower home ownership and lower home values today. Even though that map is gone, that groove, that redlining cut in the map is still here. It shows up in credit scores because, when Black families are locked out of owning, they're locked out of, building any equity for themselves, the way that we talk about on this program. And, that is the reason why they are not able to have as many credit cards. They're not able to take out home equity lines of credit. They have fewer car loans. Black and Hispanic families are more likely to, even still to this day, to be something called credit invisible, or for them to have what's called a thin credit file. It's not because of anything that they did. It's because of the historical impact that redlining still has in this country. Okay. And sometimes we do need to take steps to unwind the things that have gone wrong. There's a gentleman named Andre Perry. He's with the Brookings Institute, and he conducted studies and found that majority Black neighborhoods in the United States are still appraised at about 23% lower than the identical home that is sold elsewhere. So this accounts for schools, crime, everything. When this home that's owned by a Black family is going to sell for appraise at 23% less than the home that's owned by a white family, everything else considered equal. That is roughly $165 billion in lost equity to Black families. That's absolutely terrible. So, where does that leave us in 2026? Where are we today? Overall, I want you guys to know that homeownership in this country is around 65%, around 73% for white Americans, but for Black Americans, it's still only in the mid-40s. It's only around 45%. And for Hispanic Americans, that's only about 50% of homeownership. Young Black buyers are only half as likely to ever buy a home as their white peers. So I want you to think about this. Go look at a high school and look at all of the Black children in the school and all the white children in the school, and understand that is a fact as of today. This gap is not going to close on its own. This gap in Black homeownership is only going to close because when we encourage more Black families to purchase real estate. This is the reason why I sit on the board of the housing fund, why down payment assistance and affordable housing solutions are extremely important to me, because I am an American who truly believes that freedom to own property is so closely tied to every other freedom that we enjoy. I want every single American to enjoy this and to walk into homeownership with me. I don't want to leave anybody behind. So when we come back from the break, I want to take a look exactly who is the head of HUD right now and what is he doing to help turn these numbers around. Guys, if you want to share this episode with a friend or a family member, do so. Go find me on Spotify. That is the easiest way to find The Real Deal with Kim Hollingshead. You can just search Kim Hollingshead and you'll find me on there. And if you're looking to buy or sell your next home, give us a call. We work with trusted professionals who can help you with your homeownership dreams. Give us a call. It's 615-257-0565. That is 615-257-0565. We'll be right back.